The Fortified Construction Standard is updated on a periodic basis. The 2020 version was published in October 2020 and will be in effect for projects permitted on or after November 1st, 2021. IBHS has created the Summary of Changes document, which details all of the differences between the updated standard and the one currently in effect. This is available for download at fortifiedhome.org. In this series of short videos, we will highlight the biggest changes to the standard and offer some insight into why the changes were made. Technical updates to the Fortified Standards are made for three main reasons: building code changes and updates, IBHS research and testing conducted at our lab in Richburg, South Carolina, and post-disaster field observations, along with engineering and construction best practices. Throughout this video series, we will indicate which changes are code-driven, research-driven, or engineering and field observation-driven, with the blue book, green microscope, and orange boot icons shown. Some overall technical changes in the 2020 Fortified Home Standard are that minimum design requirements must correspond to no less than the pressures resulting from an ultimate wind speed of 130 miles per hour with exposure C. This applies to all components, including doors, windows, skylights, garage doors, soffits, roof covers, and sheathing. Additional overall technical updates in the 2020 Fortified Home Standard are to include specifications for ASCE 716. However, the ASCE 710 specifications are still there and still apply if the local code has not yet adopted ASCE 716. Some overall updates we covered previously include clarification and consolidation of acceptable testing methods and design report documentation in Section 2. For the purposes of gold designations, Section 2.8.2 localizes this information regarding acceptable design pressure rating testing and documentation for openings such as windows, doors, garage doors, and opening protection systems. This localization of key information is intended to help improve usability and clarity for all Fortified users. Additionally, the tabulated minimum required design pressures for components such as windows, doors, garage doors, and opening protection systems have been updated for compliance with the most recent building codes to include pressures per ASCE 716. However, keep in mind that the ASCE 710 pressures are still there and still apply if the local code has not yet adopted ASCE 716. Refer to Table B2.3 in the appendix for these minimum design pressure requirements. There has also been clarification and updates to the three options available to achieve the Gold Continuous Load Path, or CLP, requirement. For new construction, when a professional engineer designs the continuous load path, new minimum design requirements have been added. For the high wind prescriptive option for new construction, the requirements have been updated to conform to the newest code additions incorporating ASCE 716. For retrofit of existing homes, there have been no changes to requirements, but the section has been clarified. To address confusion about what counts as new construction and what counts as an existing home for the purposes of fortified designations, clarification has been provided in Section 6.4 to define new construction as when the Certificate of Occupancy, or CO, has been issued less than 12 months prior to the application being made to IBHS. Homes older than this must follow the retrofit of existing home path outlined in Section 6.5. In the past, homes that are several years old, sometimes up to 10 years or more, have been submitted to IBHS seeking gold designation as new construction. Situations like this are challenging as documentation of the original construction of the home does not necessarily reflect the current state and condition of the home. This documentation, however, can be very useful to an engineer assessing the current condition of the home and its existing continuous load path. For new construction, when a professional engineer has designed the home's continuous load path, there have been some new minimum requirements added that need to be incorporated into the home's design and construction. These requirements are listed in Section 6.4.1. These minimum requirements have been added both to provide uniformity and a standard minimum level of performance for gold homes and to reduce confusion during the gold evaluation process, thereby streamlining the path to designation. By clearly specifying these minimum requirements in the 2020 FORTIFIED Standard, the engineer, contractor, and evaluator can all be on the same page going forward. The engineer will know what elements must be included in the home's design, the contractor will know that these elements must be installed, and the evaluator will know what elements must be observed and documented during evaluation. Section 6.4.3 has been added to address the use of prescriptive methods to design a home's continuous load path when using non-traditional building systems. It also addresses when a professional engineer needs to be involved if a prescriptive method is used to design a home. New building technologies are always emerging, and prescriptive guidance is available for many types of building systems. However, prescriptive guidance is usually limited to the design of the particular building system addressed, leaving critical overall CLP connections as the responsibility of others. For example, if a prescriptive method is used to design the walls of a home, the connections of the roof to the walls and the walls to the foundation must also be designed. But quite often, those connections are outside the scope of the wall's prescriptive method. Accurately interpreting and applying prescriptive guidance is critical to a strong continuous load path. Interpreting design tables and determining correct site design information can be complicated and should be performed by a qualified professional engineer, especially in hurricane-prone regions. For this reason, even when using a prescriptive method for a non-traditional building system, a professional engineer must still oversee the design of the building as a whole to ensure that the entire continuous load path has been accounted for. However, for high wind only applications, within certain limitations, the FORTIFIED program allows for prescriptive wood design in conformance with the wood frame construction manual and in combination with FORTIFIED minimum requirements without the involvement of a professional engineer. These requirements have been updated to reflect the latest building codes and ASCE 716. It is important to note that not all homes will be eligible for this prescriptive option. Reference the Wood Frame Construction Manual and Appendix F of the 2020 FORTIFIED Standard for building limitations. Reference Section 6.4.2 for additional information. For existing homes that do not qualify as new construction, a professional engineer must inspect the home, assess the existing continuous load path, and assess its adequacy. If the structure requires retrofits, then the engineer must specify what retrofits are required. There have been no changes to the requirements of this section, but the list of minimum elements that must be inspected has been broken out into a separate appendix, Appendix G, that can be used by the professional engineer performing the inspection. Reference Section 6.5 for additional information on retrofit of existing homes. Thanks for spending some time with us today to go over updates to FORTIFIED Gold and the 2020 FORTIFIED Home Standard. In the next video, we'll be covering what engineers and design professionals need to know. So please stay tuned.